All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're focusing on something pretty exciting, getting you prepped for a set designer interview.
Yeah. We'll be diving into RoleCatcher's resources. They've got some really interesting stuff on this.
Yeah, I was really impressed. And, you know, when you think about a set designer,
Hmm.
they're the ones taking a director's vision and turning it into that tangible world on stage, right?
Right. A three-dimensional space that the audience can actually step into and, get lost in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a blend of that artistry and practicality. It's not just pretty pictures.
It's so much more than that. A set designer needs to think about all these different factors.
Like what?
Well, like spatial dynamics
Yeah.
and even construction,
Mhm.
how things are actually built. And then lighting, too, right? How light plays off the different surfaces of the set. It's pretty complex.
It is. It's a very collaborative role, too.
Oh, absolutely. Working hand in hand with the whole creative team.
Yeah, speaking of collaboration,
Yeah.
we've got to talk about RoleCatcher's AI, right?
Yeah.
Because that could be a fantastic collaborator for your interview prep.
Totally. And it's surprisingly easy to use.
Like you can use it to really fine-tune your CV and cover letter. Make sure you're hitting the specific skills that those employers are looking for.
Yeah, like you've got an insider tip sheet for each application.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just the application itself, right? Like
Uh-huh.
what about the AI feedback for practice interviews? I found that super helpful.
It's pretty amazing. It goes beyond just like, did you say the right things? It actually analyzes your delivery, like your tone and pacing and all that.
Which is so important, especially in the field like set design where you're selling your vision, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the technical skills.
It's the whole package. You got to come across confident and engaging,
Yeah.
and the AI picks up on all those subtle cues.
It's like having your own personal coach,
Yeah,
but without the awkward silences when you mess up, right?
definitely. And RoleCatcher also has this really cool video practice feature.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. You actually get to see yourself in action, so you're not caught off guard when you're in that actual virtual interview. It's such a good tool to have in your back pocket. But okay, let's get down to business. Let's talk about those set designer interview questions.
Yes. Let's dive into some common ones.
Perfect. So I think the first one is like the classic, right? What inspired you to pursue a career in set design? Sounds simple, but there's definitely a right and a wrong way to answer it.
Yeah, this is where you really want to let your passion shine through. The interviewers aren't just looking for a laundry list of skills. They want to see that spark.
Right, what makes you tick? So how do you find that spark?
Think back to those specific moments or projects that really lit you up. Like, was it a childhood fascination with building forts, or maybe a high school play that just blew your mind? Find that personal story that genuinely connects you to set design.
Yeah, even if it's not super dramatic, it's about how you tell it.
Absolutely. Bring that energy and enthusiasm to the interview and make it genuine.
Okay, so let's say you've nailed that first impression. Now they hit you with, can you walk us through your design process from concept to execution? This one feels more technical, but it's still about storytelling, right?
It totally is. Think of it as telling the story of how an idea in your head becomes a physical reality on stage. Start with the research and inspiration phase. Where do you go for ideas? How do you immerse yourself in the world of the play?
Oh, good point. Like, where are you finding those visuals and that inspiration?
Right. Then walk them through the nitty-gritty. Sketching, model making, any 3D modeling skills if you have them.
And don't forget the collaboration element. Mention how you work with the director, lighting designers, even costume designers, right? Making sure everything comes together seamlessly.
Exactly. It's not just you in a vacuum, it's a team effort.
Speaking of teamwork, it's a good time to bring up the RoleCatcher Career Guide. It mentions that set designers often work crazy hours, right? Tight deadlines, all that jazz. So highlighting your time management skills, your organization skills within your design process, that can be a really smart strategy.
Oh, absolutely. Show them you can handle the pressure and still deliver amazing work. Because almost every set designer interview is going to ask about balancing creative vision with those practical limitations, especially budget.
Oh yeah, budgets, the bane of every artist's existence.
Yeah.
So how do you answer that one without sounding like you're willing to compromise your artistic integrity?
Have some solid examples ready of times where you had to be resourceful. Maybe you had to get creative with limited materials or, find a clever solution to some unexpected problem. And the career guide actually lists budget constraints as one of the main challenges in the pros and cons section. So you're hitting on a key point the interviewer probably knows all too well.
It's about showing you're not just an artist, you're a problem solver. You understand the real world of production. But how do you make sure that real world is sensitive to different cultures?
Ah, yes, that's another important one.
Because they're going to ask you, how do you ensure your designs are culturally appropriate and respectful? And in today's world, that's a big deal.
Yeah, you don't want to come across as tone deaf or insensitive. So, talk about your research process. What steps do you take to make sure you're representing cultures accurately and respectfully?
Have you ever worked with diverse communities or collaborated with cultural consultants?
Yeah.
That's definitely something to mention.
And even if you haven't had those specific experiences yet, emphasize your commitment to learning, that you're staying informed about evolving cultural perspectives.
It shows you take the responsibility seriously, which is huge.
Right, you're not just thinking about the aesthetics, you're thinking about the impact your work has. And sometimes that impact involves leading a team.
Okay, so let's say you're going for a more senior role, right? They might ask, how would you manage a team of assistant designers, making sure their work aligns with your overall vision?
This is where you showcase those leadership skills. How do you give clear direction while also encouraging creativity?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
Exactly. How do you handle feedback? Or even conflict, right?
Because that's bound to happen in any collaborative environment.
Oh, yeah. And this is a good time to mention RoleCatcher's Career Guide again. That typical interaction section, it talks about how important it is for a set designer to work smoothly with everyone, from the director to the stage manager. So use that to show you understand the collaborative nature of the job.
It's not just about being the boss, it's about being a leader who can get the best out of their team. But let's face it, in an interview, you've also got to showcase what makes you stand out.
Right. What makes you unique?
So how do you answer that dreaded question? What sets your design work apart from others in the industry without sounding like you're bragging?
This is your moment to shine. Highlight your signature style, your specializations. Do you love incorporating unusual materials? Are you a whiz with period-specific sets?
Find what makes your work memorable and let that personality come through, because that's what will make you unforgettable to the interviewer.
And don't be afraid to tie it back to the company's aesthetic, you know? Have you done your research?
Oh yeah, that's so important. Because if you can show how your approach complements their existing work, it shows you're not just sending out generic applications. You've put thought into it. You're genuinely interested. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's so much more to unpack. And we're back for more Set Designer Interview Prep. Did you catch your breath after all those questions?
Just barely. But yeah, there's always more to uncover. It's like those layered sets, right? You peel back one layer and there's another one underneath.
So true. And speaking of layers, let's add another one to those interview questions.
All right, hit me with it.
Okay, how about this one? Tell me about a time you faced a challenging design problem on a production. How did you approach it? Have you ever gotten that one?
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. And, you know, it can be a bit tricky because it's not just about describing the problem. It's about how you handled it.
Right. It's showcasing your problem-solving skills and your adaptability. Like, are you someone who can think on their feet?
Exactly. So pick an example from your past work where you encountered a real obstacle. Maybe it was a super tight budget, or an unusual stage shape that you had to work with, or even a last-minute change from the director.
Oh, yeah, those last-minute changes can be a real curveball.
Totally. But that's what they're trying to assess, right? Can you handle those curveballs? So walk them through your thought process. How did you break down the problem? What were your brainstorming strategies? And how did you collaborate with others to find that solution?
Because collaboration is key.
Right, absolutely. Set design is not a solo sport. And, you know, even if the solution wasn't perfect, which, let's be honest, sometimes it isn't, what did you learn from that experience? What insights can you apply to future projects?
Oh, I like that. It shows you're always growing, always learning. And speaking of growth, here's another question that can be a little tricky. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in set design? Because this field is constantly evolving, right?
Oh, yeah, it moves so fast. And that question is really about showing your passion for innovation, your commitment to continuous learning.
So it's not just about saying, oh yeah, I read some design blogs. You need to be specific.
Exactly. Mention actual publications or websites that you follow, or any professional development courses that you've taken, especially if they relate to, like, you know, the newer technologies, projection mapping, interactive sets, all that cool stuff.
But showing them you're not just keeping up, you're on the cutting edge.
Exactly. And this is a great time to bring in some insights from the RoleCatcher Career Guide. You know, that industry trends section. It talks about the increasing use of digital elements in set design. So Use that knowledge to your advantage,
Show them you've done your homework. You understand where the industry is headed.
and that you're excited to be a part of that evolution. Okay, now let's get a little bit more personal. What about that question? What are your greatest strengths as a set designer? Because sometimes that one can feel like you're bragging.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to talk about yourself sometimes, right?
Hmm.
But it's really about self-awareness, knowing what you bring to the table.
Exactly. So, what are the skills and qualities that really make you shine in your work? Are you incredibly organized and detail-oriented? Are you a master collaborator? Do you have a knack for historical research?
Pick those strengths that genuinely reflect you and also align with the job requirements,
Yeah.
right? Because you want to show them why you're the perfect fit.
Exactly. And it's always helpful to back up those strengths with concrete examples. Don't just say, I'm a great communicator. Describe a specific instance where your communication skills saved the day.
Oh, that's a good tip. Give them a real-life example that they can latch on to.
Right.
Because those stories are much more memorable than just a list of adjectives.
Exactly. Okay, now let's tackle a question that can be a bit nerve-wracking. What are your salary expectations?
Ugh, yeah, that one. It always feels like a minefield. Like how much is too much? How little is selling yourself short?
Right. The key here is research. Before the interview, use those salary comparison websites like Glassdoor or salary.com. See what the typical range is for set designers with your experience level.
In your location too, right? Because that can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And then during the interview, be honest, but also emphasize that you're more focused on finding the right fit, a position where you can grow and contribute your skills.
Yeah, it's not just about the paycheck. It's about the whole package. And remember, you don't have to give a specific number right away. You can always say something like, I'd like to learn more about the role's responsibilities before discussing salary specifics.
Exactly. That shows you're thoughtful. You're not just chasing the highest bidder.
Okay, we've covered some tough ones, but now for what might be the most important question of all, and it comes at the end. Do you have any questions for us?
Don't underestimate the power of this moment. It's your chance to shine.
It's like the grand finale of your interview performance. So, what are some smart questions to ask that really leave a lasting impression?
Well, first and foremost, ask about anything that genuinely sparked your interest during the conversation. Did they mention a specific project that sounded cool? A new technology they're implementing?
Those follow-up questions show you're engaged. You're not just going through the motions.
Right. It's about turning the tables a bit. You're interviewing them too.
And remember, you want to gather information that helps you decide if this is the right fit for you. Ask about the company culture, the team dynamics, the opportunities for growth and development.
You can also bring in some of those insights from the RoleCatcher Career Guide. Like those challenges mentioned in the work environment section. Ask about how they handle tight deadlines and demanding schedules.
It shows you've done your research. You're not just looking for any job. You're looking for a place where you can thrive. And we're back, ready for the final act of acing that set designer interview.
Absolutely. We've talked about those tough questions, how to highlight those amazing skills of yours, but now it's about making a connection.
Yeah, a real human connection with the interviewer. Because at the end of the day, they're not just hiring a skill set.
Right. They're looking for someone they can actually see themselves working with, someone who's going to be a good fit for the team.
Okay, so how do we create that sense of connection, especially when we're probably a little nervous?
Honesty, truly. Be yourself. It sounds cliche, but authenticity is key. Interviewers can tell if you're putting on an act.
Right, so no pretending to be someone you're not.
Exactly. Let that genuine personality shine through. If you're a bit quirky, embrace it. If a certain aspect of set design really gets you fired up, let that excitement show.
So basically, be yourself, but like the best, most enthusiastic version of yourself.
Yeah. And remember, it's a two-way street. Active listening is so important in an interview.
Oh, good point. Like actually listening to what they're saying, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Exactly. Make eye contact, nod along, ask clarifying questions, show them that you're engaged and interested in what they have to say.
Makes sense. It's a conversation, not an interrogation.
Yeah, precisely. And, even though it's a professional setting, it doesn't have to be stiff. If there's an opportunity for a little humor, go for it.
Oh, yeah. A shared laugh can really break the ice.
Absolutely. Now, remember how we talked about RoleCatcher's video practice feature?
Yes. That was super helpful. But even if you're not recording yourself beforehand, are there any body language tips to keep in mind?
The basics are always important. Good posture, eye contact, avoiding fidgeting.
The classic advice, right?
But beyond that, it's about finding that sweet spot between confidence and ease.
Like you're capable but also approachable.
Yeah, exactly. Projecting that you're ready to tackle any challenge, but also excited to collaborate and learn. Okay, but here's the thing. No matter how much you prepare, there's always a chance you'll get a question that throws you off guard.
Ugh, those curveball questions, they can really make your mind go blank.
They can, but the key is not to panic. Take a deep breath, acknowledge the question, even just saying something like, "That's an interesting one," can give you a moment to collect your thoughts.
All right, buy yourself a little time to process.
Exactly. If you need to, ask them to rephrase the question or say, "Let me think about that for a second."
It shows you're taking it seriously. You're not just trying to come up with a quick answer on the spot.
And if you genuinely don't know the answer, that's okay too.
You're allowed to not know everything.
Exactly. Be honest about it, but frame it positively. Say something like, "I haven't had experience with that specific software, but I'm a fast learner and I'm eager to expand my skills."
It's all about showing that growth mindset.
Exactly. Okay, now let's fast forward to the end of the interview. You've nailed your answers, you've made a great connection. How do you leave a lasting positive impression?
I've always heard a thank you note goes a long way.
Oh, absolutely. A simple email within 24 hours, reiterating your enthusiasm for the role, mentioning something specific you discussed that really resonated with you.
Yeah, it's to show you were paying attention. You genuinely valued the conversation.
It's a small gesture that can really make a difference. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to remind you that every interview, even if it doesn't lead to a job offer, is a valuable learning experience.
It's a chance to practice those skills, to get more comfortable talking about your work.
And to get a better sense of what you're really looking for in your career. And remember, RoleCatcher is here to support you through every step of that journey.
From tailoring your application materials to practicing your answers, we've got the tools to help you shine. So go forth, future set designers, and knock 'em dead.
Absolutely. You've got the talent, the passion, and now the preparation. Go create those amazing worlds for audiences to experience.
And that's a wrap on our Set Designer Interview Deep Dive. We hope you feel empowered and ready to conquer those interviews. Remember, break a leg,